Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast. My name is Adam Den. Ethan Leviditis is here with me as always. Michael Cormelos was unfortunately unable to join us, but he will be back soon. And we're coming to you today on an interesting day.
Yeah.
I asked to start first today. The Philadelphia 76ers with an absolutely brutal 109-106 loss, putting them down 3-2 in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks. And what are we supposed to say? We sit here a year after, proclaiming the process has failed. We sit here 3 years out from the start of this incredible run, with our hopes of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid developing into the all-stars that they have become. It has been a journey throughout this entire process, if we are to call it. But when it comes down to it, the fact is, this team just isn't built for this.
No.
And, it is probably the most heartbreaking reality, in Philadelphia sports since maybe, I guess we can just say 2018 Sixers, but,
Yep.
I think this is worse than that. I think this hits, 2002 NFC Championship game levels of insanity. But at the same time, the talent in which this team has and the potential, which has just been completely, just choked. Joel Embiid, we look at the final 4 minutes. It's across his entire roster. Joel Embiid in the final 4 minutes looked completely inept and unlike any kind of, generational superstar, which we thought he was during the regular season. Ben Simmons, I haven't complained about the free throw thing just because, I think to an extent, it hasn't changed the course of a game. It's been somewhat of an exaggeration. But, my God, we're supposed to have the next Magic Johnson on our hands, and we're sitting here with, budget 35-year-old Jason Kidd.
Yeah. When there's on the Knicks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awful.
Tobias Harris has
Forgot
completely
it. He
disappeared.
didn't forget how to shoot because he didn't shoot the ball. It's not like
Exactly.
I don't know. He's not
The
He's forgetting how
aggressiveness.
to involve himself in an offense, and when he does, it kind of just held the ball. Just like
Yeah.
nope, Seth
The
is open.
aggressiveness we
Maybe
saw
Joel
all
is
regular
open. Yeah.
season that we applauded, and the differential that had happened between what had happened in the playoffs and what had happened, he was completely unable to step up. And we can look at the numbers and we can say Joel Embiid 36, 11, and 5. We can look at the numbers and say Seth Curry dropped 36. But at the end of the day, when you have an offense that is just completely unable to do anything down the stretch, and a coach who, looks completely flustered for the third year in a row. He's putting in bench rotations, and taking out your best player in crunch time moments, just your best transition player and defender in crunch time moments, just because. This is it's just Philadelphia sports, and
Yeah.
it's sickening, and but we should have expected this.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to January when we talked about this, and we were both on the same page, and we said James Harden is here, and we said let's pull the trigger. And we sit here today, and the Brooklyn Nets, and I know he hasn't been playing, but the Brooklyn Nets have established themselves as a powerhouse in the East. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think, with some improvements in the coaching area as well, will continue to be a contender. And looking at this right now, I could not tell you what the future holds for this team. I could not. I mean, I would like to say there's some kind of dramatic big change that's going to come about and, drastically transform this roster. But the fact is, Benson's trade value is at an all-time low.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris, I mean, has probably been your second offensive scoring option. So, I mean, I wouldn't see a reason to move that contract. And, I mean, you probably wouldn't be able to with that huge, ginormous max still. Really, the only change you can make is just rotational pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the even more frustrating part is this series probably isn't over and we're already talking about this.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just such a unbelievable collapse that we have no. We're going to Atlanta with way too much to prove, and I don't think they'll be able to back it up because they're like, yeah, it's all mental. We'll be back. We'll be ready to come back and fill in Game 7. Like, you should be preparing for the next game.
yeah.
There's a lot more on the table than coming back to Philly because it was electric in the first 3 quarters, and then they brought in the all bench lineup, and Dwight Howard proceeded to miss like 5 dunks, and Lou Williams dropped like 13 points in like 10 minutes. And yeah, that was just the beginning of the end. And then, Hackabin literally was a death sentence for this game. Like, it was, what, 3-point game, and he missed 10, right?
Yep. And
Good one
it's
by 7. See, Ben missed a dunk, Joel missed a dunk, Dwight missed some dunks, like wide open dunks. But it's all mental because just being incompetent at basketball at a shorthanded team without DeAndre Hunter and guys coming in and out. Like when Trae Young's on the floor, you gotta just there's no reason why what Herter and Bogdanovich had like 6 points combined and Herter had 0. 2 of their starters were terrible. Clint Capella for the most part was awful against Joel Embiid, and you still lose this game up by 30. Like it doesn't sound real at all.
and I mean, at the end of the day, we can look at the fourth quarters throughout this entire series, just overall. I mean, we go back to game 2, where they go on this incredible run. Atlanta does with Bogdanovich hitting like 2 threes, and Trae Young starting to heat up, and they close the game within 8. And Joel goes off, and Joel saves his team as he tends to. And then we go back to game 3, where again in the fourth quarter, there starts to be the beginning of the fourth. There starts to be a little bit of a push. Trae Young starts to get going a little bit more in the game. They can't even take Joel out, even though he's injured, just because the game refuses to get out of hand. And I mean, it's just so telling how overdependent the entire roster is on the health of Joel Embiid, with the fact that Joel Embiid, I don't think ever will be fully healthy for a playoff series.
No.
Yeah. I mean, the reality of having a 7-foot, 265-pound center as the leader of your team with back and knee problems that have carried over across the years. And I feel so bad. I really do. Because you can tell how much work this guy put in the offseason. You can tell how much this guy really wanted to come in and win a championship. And the likelihood is he's probably going to sit through an offseason of hot takes about him and this entire team being traded and blown up and blah, 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 blah. But we shouldn't have assumed safety after a regular season.
Yeah.
And we did. and we assumed that Ben Simmons had, offensively transformed this playmaking generational talent, and that we were clear of his former playoff woes, that Tobias Harris had become the player he was back on the Clippers, even as a third option, and, had developed his post-up game is still great. And to be fair, he has been good this series. Just not the past couple of games. We assumed that a bench that was so devoid of any kind of big man whatsoever outside of Dwight Howard and his 6 fouls would be able to sustain in any kind of playoff series. And it's sickening. It's sickening.
Yeah, I don't know why we change our outlooks after every season. It's kind of just more of the same. I see the cycle. It's be respectful in the regular season, make the playoffs, lose in the playoffs, make minor moves that make us excited, and repeat.
Yep.
They're gonna get some like above average wing, or like a power forward, and everybody's well, we finally fixed that problem, and then gonna be like a top whatever seed unless we trade everybody and we just tank, which is unlikely to be honest. They're too complicit to do anything. But then we'll lose to we gotta spin a wheel. It'll be, I'd say it's like Charlotte next year. It's literally just the most inferior competition possible. And I mean we were like Doc, like I've been generally fine with Doc Rivers, but we should have seen this coming. We should have seen this coming from a mile away. Because unless, other than the time he was cherry picked 3, possibly 4 Hall of Famers of the same team in Boston, he's kind of had a reputation of like not being particularly a good playoff coach, especially in these situations when he has to put the brakes on and not like just let it roll. Because when he lets it roll, you blow 25-point leads to a vastly inferior team at home. And he's better than Brett Brown, but everyone's better than Brett Brown. But Doc Rivers is a regular season coach. He's not a playoff coach at all. We're only here because of them showing up in the regular season. They are allergic to going out of the second round. We're literally the Clippers of yesteryear. It's a nightmare.
It's just the refusal to change the rotations for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna complain in 5 minutes about Mike Budenholzer and playing Elijah Bryant 20 minutes in a playoff game. But the fact that after a game 1 in which there was a -17 swing for the Atlanta Hawks, in which that entire bench unit was out there, and the fact that you felt so secure in a playoff game with your history and with this team's history that you're going to throw that lineup out there with 8 minutes left in this game. I mean, it's disrespectful to Atlanta for one, because I respect the hell out of this team, honestly, for how much they have fought to win games with the overall talent differential and size differential between these two teams in the series. But it's just stupid for two. I mean, like every single advanced stat will tell you that you should not have Dwight Howard on the floor to finish a game. Every advanced stat will tell you that you shouldn't have Shake Milton and the streakiness out there to finish the game. And just doesn't care.
No.
I can't even.
Yeah, should we just move on? This is we'll be going on forever about how much of a nightmare this is.
Yep. So to transition, I Yeah, oh my God. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. A series that we talked about a couple days ago. As being somewhat of a surprising slog in which Brooklyn had taken a 2-0 lead and had been dominating throughout, but injuries to both just to Kyrie Irving, have caused, what's been a big swing in Milwaukee's favor so far, and it took Kevin Durant's incredible game with 49 points the other night in order to save the series. But what are our thoughts so far on the Nets, both the Nets and the Bucks, chances to come out of the Eastern Conference?
I mean, the Bucks, it hurts so much because ever since he came into the league, I've been a big Giannis guy. But yeah, I can't see this team winning in Game 6 because they have they're like the Sixers. They have no interest in adjusting, especially defensively. Like Giannis was in the paint for the entirety of that. Just KD just throwing up shots and making them with PJ Tucker on him, with Chris Middleton on him. Because like what's he gonna? Who's gonna be in the paint? Like Jeff Green? Like is Jeff Green a bigger threat than the greatest? I said it in the group chat with Michael, and he thought it was insane. Probably the top 2 scorer in the definitely best scorer of our generation, maybe one of the best of all time.
Definitely.
Especially when he's knocking down all these shots and you're failing to respond on the offensive side. Like I don't know, James Harden his impact definitely helped the chemistry, but it's not like he posed a lot offensively. He kind of just sat around and just said, "Okay, you can do your thing," and he did his thing. He carried the team so hard. And the rest of the Milwaukee team, especially the coaching, needs to know that like he is what you have to focus on. It's genuinely that simple. It's like James Harden is obviously a very good player. We know that, but when he's hurt and he's just kind of running around for 45 minutes, it's not like you have to really worry about it. And yeah, the Pat is kind of just the thing with us again. I said like with the Sixers, they just don't want to adjust, especially with the coaching. Mike Budenholzer, ever since he got here, like they've won games. They've been a successful team seeding wise ever since he got there, since he left Atlanta, and they've also failed to get a second round because they've kind of just ridden the wave and just say, yeah, we're gonna bring the ball up with a 7-foot, like I don't even call him a stretch big, but he put up a lot of threes
Not a
for no
stretch
reason.
big, yeah.
Not a stretch. He wants to be, but it's not. It's not his game. I'm not sure what to say. Should be Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo, Delaware legend, of course, Villanova legend, of course, for the Philly people. But, yeah, his injury, I guess, hurts the depth, but there's no reason to just completely – it wasn't a 20-point collapse. It was just a complete failure to adjust. And Mike Budenholzer should go, but I don't know if they will just because they're like, yeah, we got good regular season accomplishments. And I mean, the firings aren't like I wouldn't go, hey, let's get Terry Stotts instead. That's like just Mike Budenholzer.
I would do it for Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
but yeah, Mike Budenholzer's got to go. They're wasting Giannis for real.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I think, my main takeaway from this whole series has just been, like you said, my appreciation for Kevin Durant. Yeah. And I've always been a big KD fan. I thought, 2019 was just so incredibly fun to watch. That Golden State season, I thought he should have been an MVP candidate, honestly, that year. And to see him tear his ACL was just heartbreaking for a player of his caliber. But I've been shocked and so impressed with the way that he has stepped up all year. His legs are obviously still there. He's continued to be the same generational scorer and able to create the same generation, create the same separation. every single drive. Defensively, he's still fantastic. Um, and I think a lot of people are going to point to, I think, the Giannis thing and Giannis throwing Giannis on him and the adjustments to be made. And I agree. I do agree. I think that does provide. I mean, he's the defensive player of the year. That would obviously provide not 49 points for Kevin Durant and somewhat close Milwaukee in. But the crunch time offense of this team, just like the Sixers,
Stagnant
with him as the primary playmaker, yeah, it's just disgusting. It's absurd. And to think that they would have, for anyone to think they would have closed that gap, within that final 4 minutes, even the last game when they were within 8 and they were driving down. I mean, I had no faith whatsoever, and I haven't in this team throughout just because of that. And because Brooklyn, I mean, defensively, even though we've made fun of them throughout the entire regular season for, 23rd, defensive efficiency, blah, blah, blah. The way that they've been able to step up, the way Blake Griffin has anchored that paint defense when they basically just throw those Giannis ISOs over and over and over again. I mean, that's become their offense. I mean, we have the video of Giannis backpedaling, trying to run straight forward. Yeah. And so, I mean, we can talk about coaching changes, which I do think that would help with the offensive scheme. We can talk about, I mean, improving that bench, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think if this team makes it out of this rounds, I don't think there are any changes. Just because, I mean, they're probably gonna take it as we beat the generational Brooklyn Nets, even though this team is basically crippled. Having James Harden, who, I mean, although he did make some great passes the other night, was, I mean, what are we going to say? 30%? Say 30%?
Probably less than that. I just walked around and just it was there for, moral support, to be honest.
I mean, and Kyrie, I mean, when he comes back, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing about his game is his explosiveness. I mean, and his handle. I don't know what that's going to look like for the first couple games of that.
Yeah.
So even when he comes back, so I don't know what to take away from Milwaukee, even if they win the series. I think they would destroy Atlanta, and I think Brooklyn will too.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the fight they put up. But I mean, I'm just happy, honestly, that I've gotten to watch, to witness this performance from Kevin Durant, and to witness what he's been doing throughout the past 10 years. Because, I mean, we talk about all the LeBron stuff and, the 2018 run and, 2011 in Miami. But I think we need to start talking more about just pure Kevin Durant performances. And I think this is one of them that will definitely go down in the books for sure.
Yep.
So to transition, the Utah Jazz facing off with the Los Angeles Clippers after, I mean, we're getting into now a slew of NBA news just, I mean, completely blowing up yesterday with Kawhi Leonard straining his ACL. Probably, I mean, if I were to guess, I'm not a doctor, but out for the rest of their playoff run, as crazy as that sounds, or a good portion of it. And Utah still missing Mike Conley, but the Clippers still managed to get a win in Game 5 last night. And what are our thoughts on both these teams and their chances of making it to the Western Conference Finals?
I mean, even though the Clippers are ahead in the series, it's probably what is still like up for grabs because Kawhi is probably one of the best players I've seen in my entire life. Like he is so automatic on both, especially offensively. I mean, he's locked in all the time, and defensively, one of the best two-way players I've seen too. And that just impacts being thrown to Paul George isn't really ideal. Even though he definitely did show up in Game 5, but yeah, there's still too much firepower for Utah to really combat it. Like Rudy Gobert, we like to make fun of him, but top five. It wasn't your top five Raptor player. Hey,
Yeah,
let's
top
go.
one,
Yeah,
top
top
one.
one. And then Donovan Mitchell, he's been on the tear. Bogdanovich is kind of a beast. Jordan Clarkson, there's so much depth on that team. I like the depth on the Clippers like a decent amount, but with Kawhi, I just don't think they really can stand a chance. But I mean, I'd like them to win. I definitely don't want to see the Jazz in the finals because their relationship with the Sixers. But considering how the Sixers are treating us, I don't really know. But we'll say I wonder for the Clippers because they've been through so much and never got in the second round. I don't really think they would really have a chance against Phoenix. But I don't know. I'm happy for them for taking a series lead, and for Paul George finally like silencing the NBA Twitter people about how he doesn't
We'll see about that
go to the
one.
playoffs. 'Cause, I mean, it definitely a few games prove that, but especially in a game altering performance, the series altering, giving them the lead. So I mean, I'll give credit there, but there's definitely still a lot of series left in this, and both, even if they make conference finals.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Paul George constantly disrespected, but I mean, I think we still have to remember that this is a top 20 NBA player. And I think, I mean, this roster being, uh, I mean, not even close to as deep as that 2018, last year's team was. I mean, Luke Kennard and his $64 million playing major minutes. Nicholas Batum has been better, obviously better than his Charlotte run, but he's still just kind of a body. Marcus Morris was their second scoring option, or third behind Reggie Jackson last night. Both of which, I mean, Morris was a trade, but Jackson just a year ago was picked up as a buyout guy. Um, so the fact that he did manage to carry that roster to a win last night was superb. But I completely agree that this Utah team is definitely not out of it. Mike Conley just provides so much to that offense, and opening up Donovan Mitchell's ability to not have to be the primary ball handler and be able to play make off ball, which he has developed so much over the past 2 years and has become, I mean, probably his biggest asset to the team. And Gobert, too. I mean, I know he was terrible last night, and he got, I mean, I don't know about terrible, but not himself. And Terrence Mann kind of gave him a little bit of an NBA Twitter moment. But he still remains the defensive player of the year. And I think, I mean, not to pile onto Ben Simmons still, but the best defensive player in the league throughout the season, with the way he's protected the paint being the most important part of NBA defenses today. So him being able to lock that down, what that provides for this team, even though he wasn't able to step up in crunch time. And I mean, the Clippers just really not having a driving kick option without Kawhi. I mean, it's going to be rough. And I mean, having to play Zubac a ton more minutes, even, I mean, ignoring the fact that they're going to be missing a generational superstar. It's just not pretty. So I do think the Clippers will win Game 6. I do, just because of the momentum they have, and I think Paul George does feel like this is his moment and his opportunity to step up. But I think the Phoenix Suns will probably wipe the floor with them, and
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
going to be, yeah. But with the Chris Paul injury, I mean, which we can kind of bring into the conversation now, that series between either of these teams would definitely be an incredibly interesting one, because we just don't know how many games he's going to be out. or how it's gonna, I mean, affect him long term, with his conditioning and his ability to perform in the playoffs. Um, so I don't know.
I mean, I think just the depth that Phoenix has makes them a better team. Like they can still play book at the one. They can start with Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, Dario. Like Cam Johnson played like wing at UNC, which is so weird to think, but
Yeah, I mean six
I mean,
eight is, but
yes, yeah, 6'8" is like not really a power forward ideal height. It's like you can play
yeah,
him there if you want. Like he's a good stretch player, but yeah, Chris Paul is kind of like a future Hall of Famer, first ballot, and kind of is like the heart and soul of this team. So I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a series, but I think there's just way too much, both momentum from sweeping the Nuggets and just the offensive and defensive whatever prowess of Phoenix. And just with that Kawhi, I don't really think they would be able to stand a chance.
yeah, I completely agree, and I mean the momentum that Phoenix has after, I mean, not only taking down the defending champs, but completely wiping the floor, um, with the MVP. And I mean, I've been so impressed with DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I
Yeah.
talked about it last episode. He is just, I mean, we can talk about Trae Young, and I do think Trae Young is probably the biggest breakout, quote unquote, breakout star, of these playoffs. But DeAndre Ayton, and I mean, what I came in expecting, especially defensively, and his ability just, with his size, um, and his versatility. I mean, you can play him against, forwards as well. I mean, his lateral quickness, and he's been so amazing offensively as well. So I have been incredibly impressed with him, and I think he will continue to be, not only the same player, but I mean a potential all-star caliber player,
Yeah.
if we're looking forward to next season for sure.
Yeah. Should we go to
So yeah,
firing? That's it.
yeah,
Yeah, we just kind of go
let's
through
go
all
with
this
that.
like being impressed by stars. Now we're going to talk about guys who lost their jobs.
Yeah.
So I mean, the first domino to fall was Terry Stotts. I mean, hopefully everybody should have seen that coming. It's just long overdue because not a good coach. But yeah, he's not. Oh, I kind of forgot one. Steve Clifford counts, right?
Yeah, Steve Clifford counts.
Yeah, that's a Terry Stotts location. Like the only place he would really belong is a rebuilding team.
Yeah.
He's just not good, especially if you see those games in that Denver series. It's just you just know that that team is not orchestrated or coached around Damian Lillard to a point where he can compete. It's just
No, and
so.
it seemed like, yeah, it
What?
seemed like their relationship had deteriorated. I
Yeah,
mean, throughout that entire series, and I think that was, I mean, the main thing keeping him around throughout. Um, so we'll see what did they say? They're interviewing like Chauncey Billups and
Becky Hammond, probably Mike D'Antoni, but
mhm.
I mean, if I'm them, I mean, I'd blow it up just because they're kind of just like they would be a middling team at their ceiling just because Damian Lillard carries that team so hard and CJ McCollum has regressed. Norman Powell's cool, but he's not. He's kind of just like another pure scorer like CJ McCollum, Yusuf Nurkic, and again like a pure offensive guy. He's not good on defense. Same thing with Ian Scancher. Yeah, Robert Covington is Sixers legend, of course, but
And that was a
this
true first round pick trade
yeah,
for
and
him.
I don't see this team doing anything at all. That their ceiling is like a 4 seed, and that's like on a very, very, very good day.
Yeah,
This
and
roster is
that's
not composed to win. It's kind of just, especially in the game plan, it's kind of just like let them shoot.
and
And
I
he'll give
mean,
you 30 or 40, but there's a lot of more points you kind of need to win a game, and especially when CJ McCollum has kind of just disappeared offensively, which is kind of like the only thing he's really
there for.
valuable for, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of just uh, a signal that you kind of just need to rebuild because this team is not going to This team was not winning a ring. It's kind of just writings on the wall. You lose your coach. I mean, yeah, and Dame. I mean, Dame should leave, but I mean, he's too loyal to leave. But without Dame, this would be without Dame. Even if you trade for like for like Ben Simmons, this is a nightmare of a team to watch. Like
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can see all the Dame threes on the highlights, but it's not a good basketball team at all.
no, I mean, we talked about this in the group chat the other day. Um, the fact is, this organization, I mean, is so committed to Damian Lillard and keeping it happy and keeping him there, him being, their biggest star since Bill Walton. Um,
Yeah,
and so, you know, I can't see a full teardown and a full rebuild. Um, just mainly for that reason. I think his loyalty will probably keep him there as long as they're, somewhat of a playoff contender in some way.
right.
Um, but CJ McCollum is definitely a piece that could and probably should be moved as well as everyone on the roster. I don't think anyone is untouchable. But there really aren't many assets. I mean, like Anthony Simons. You think about their young pieces they could throw with CJ to possibly get somewhat of an upgrade. And there really aren't many. I mean, when we think about like upgrades on the market that could be available, I mean, like Brandon Ingram. Like,
Yeah, I can't
you
really
think
see
about
that.
feasible things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely difficult. I mean, like Kemba, we're getting to the point where it's like,
Yeah, yeah. It's not fun.
no,
Free Dame is either just get him a good coach. Please get him a
yep,
good coach, or just get him out.
yep,
Kind of just how it has to be. Okay,
completely.
who else? Stan Van Gundy. Again, Zion has lost both of his coaches in his first two seasons. I would injury than him. I
Yep.
had the guy. This team was the 8 seed in our predictions, and that couldn't have gone any worse because this team is just not. Yeah, when they traded for Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, the spacing kind of just died, especially when you have a player like Lonzo Ball as a guard right next to Eric Bledsoe. Like, what goes through your mind when you do that? But I think again, you just gotta upgrade the coaching. I don't get the why Zion's fans like get him out of New Orleans. Like, it's 2 seasons. It was a non-playoff team before. It still is. You got a lottery pick, and yeah, you just gotta. I mean, it's an appealing place if you're a head coaching candidate. Like, you want to coach up Zion. You want to like in Dallas, you want to coach up Luka. I don't want to get to that already, but I mean, it's definitely not like there's definitely a lot of holes in the roster that you gotta have to work around. Like Steven Adams should not be on that team. Eric Bledsoe should not be on that team. There's a lot of young guys kind of business there, like Nikhil Alexander Walker. Like, I mean, Jackson Hayes is fine. Brandon Ingram's good. Zion's obviously. He's going to be an All NBA player eventually. But yeah, I just think you gotta help Zion out. I'm a UNC basketball fan, but I root for him. He's generally like a very fun player to watch, and he's a cool guy. And yeah, just gotta improve the spacing. I would do whatever you can to just build around Zion. Don't bring in 37-year-old centers and 35-year-old guards. It's not gonna help.
No, I mean, I think we could have seen even in the off season that throwing this incredibly clunky, um, completely devoid of any perimeter shooting offense together was not going to lead to success, and also that Van Gundy wasn't going to work out, just because of his somewhat old school style of coaching and the fact that he had been out of it for 4 years. I mean, it was kind of an out of the box hire. So I do think they go back to the drawing board. I think they said Jack Vaughn, who I am very, very, very high on. If you listened to the podcast last year, you know that he was, I mean, I think one of my two top head coaching candidates. I wanted him to be the Sixers coach. Um, do you look at guys like Ime Udoka as well? Um, D'Antoni, obviously. Like, there are a lot of options, and this will be a aspiring, inspiring young team um, in years to come. I do think with competent coaching and just not the friction in the locker room that there seemingly was. Ingram, I think the Ingram thing is a problem, though. I think there is something in that locker room between him and Zion and who's the number one option. I mean, I don't want to do the Joel and Ben thing, just because I've had to deal with it for so many years. But it doesn't seem like either one is clear who's the number one option. I think there might need to be a move made just because of the lack. I mean, both are incredibly ball dominant players. But I don't know. I mean, there's still plenty of time within Zion's career for him to figure it out. Ingram's as well, and this team's ceiling only goes up. Really, just Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, please. We don't want to see them in Pelicans jerseys next year.
Right. Well, this is the last one where Carlisle just happened. He did something. He apologized in the notes app, which is very funny. It's like a Jesus. It's like a teenager. It's like really sad. But
yep.
I mean, yeah, it's another thing. I feel bad for Luka, just like I feel bad for Zion. It's like a not well constructed roster. We got 2 Sixers legends, Josh Richardson and Boban on that team, and so you're wasting them. Josh Richardson, whatever. Kristaps, we could go on about Kristaps. He's just not working out, and he wants to have a bigger role. If you want a bigger role, play better. That's like it's pretty evident, like sort of like if you decide that you actually want to play like an all-star again, you can try. It's like the only issue is you're playing with a ball dominant generational player who's probably going to win a couple MVPs. Like you kind of just have to leverage that if you want to win. You kind of have to lessen your role because he's so ball dominant. I mean, he's a good playmaker. Like Luka's obviously he's probably one of the most complete offensive players. He will be one of the best players in the league, and he's all NBA first team, and he will be for the next 10, 15 years. But yeah, I think the candidates are weird. There's got to be a lot more dominance to job if they really want to have a coach that benefits Luka enough. Because I mean, Rick Carlisle, he's been around for I want to say 13 years in Dallas. He's been there since Dirk got here. I know he coached like the Pistons the year before they won the championship, which is weird, and like Brown did. I think he was there for their championship with Dirk against Miami. He's been there basically ever since then, and the weird like DeAndre Jordan years and Darren Williams years. And he's kind of just been there just because he's had success there, and he's kind of just had job security for nostalgia. Brett Brown. And yeah, I don't really know what to do because I can't really think of a coach that would work for this team. And I don't know, like a coach that would also like help in the front office to a point where we should probably get rid of Kristaps. I don't really know what you would even get at this point because it's kind of like Ben Simmons' market is at a dramatic low. I mean, it's not like he traded a ton. He traded about like a first and Dennis Smith Jr. And you got Tim Hardaway Jr. back too.
Yeah.
Like you still won the trade, but I don't know. If you expected this to be a secondary star, he's not a secondary star. He'd probably be a best fit as like a first option on a terrible team or a second option on like a middling team. I mean, Dallas kind of is a middling team right now, but I'd say just get as much value as you can, or just work it out one more year and just do it. Just free Luka, free Dame, free Zion. There's just so much incompetence in this NBA front offices and coaching staffs right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. The friction that you could see it on the court between Luka and Porzingis and Carlisle that had somewhat risen in the final. I mean, in the beginning of the regular season, especially in their early struggles, and then in the final games of the regular season and the playoffs. And so I think even if Carlisle, I mean, Woj said it too, even if Carlisle had stayed that final year, next year, there was little to no guarantee that he would be the head coach next season. And so I think he probably took this opportunity and said, I mean, look, there's this New Orleans job, which looks fantastic. There's this Boston job, which, I mean, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, why wouldn't you want to coach two superstars? I think change in the head coaching position, I mean, over time, your voice is going to get somewhat, if you stay in the same locker room, your voice is going to get somewhat minimal. I would still say Carlisle is probably a top 10 coach in the NBA, and I would expect the market for him to be incredibly substantial.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we talk about Dallas, I really don't know either. I think the Dallas Mavericks have become, I mean, if you read that article in The Athletic, I don't know if you did. I mean, it's so much of it seems just family operation now, and just if you're in with Cuban, that's how you kind of get in that front office, and I mean a lot of those positions. So I would expect in-house. I think they have a guy, I forget his name. I'm totally blanking.
Whatever. You probably know who you're talking about. Lucas said he should be a good coach. Because I know he coached one game for them, like when I think Carlisle was like out for some reason. So, yeah, I want him.
Assistant
But
coach.
listen to
I'm looking
Luka.
him up right now.
Yeah,
Listen to Luka. I mean,
Luka.
it's his team, and Jamal Mosley. I think Jamal Mosley. Yep, Jamal Mosley. Yep, that's his name. So that would be my prediction if it's gonna be me. But I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I did not expect this to just come out of the blue today. For sure, after Cuban had promised him his job security, even though I do understand it, I did not expect it. So yeah.
Yeah, well.
Is that all we got?
Yeah, we might be back in the Sixers might have won a game, or they're done.
Yeah. Yep.
Who knows?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's
not looking good.
The process died a year ago, as we established.
To quote the Last Jedi, "Let the past die."
Yep.
And end this off. Maybe fire Elton Brand, but definitely fire Harry Roseman.
And possibly fire Ben Simmons.
Yeah, please. Okay.